Welcome to Ice Cream with Authors, the podcast that brings mini author visits straight to your home or car. I'm Becca Werwell, one of your hosts and award-winning author of the Road Trip Rescue series.
And I'm Amanda Trumpower, your other host. I write for Jesus lovers who dig dragons, detectives, and droids.
Imagine sitting down with your favorite scoop of ice cream and chatting with the authors who write the stories you love. That's exactly what we do here. Whether you're a kid or a grown-up who loves faith-filled chapter books and middle-grade adventures, this is the place for you.
Each episode, we dive into delightful conversations with inspiring Christian writers, discovering new books and sweet stories that nourish the soul. So grab your ice cream, get cozy, and let's share a treat together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ice Cream with Authors. We're happy to have you here today. We are interviewing Amanda Cleary Eastep. She is a middle grade author who writes realistic fiction. The thing in her new book that we're going to talk about with her is that she includes some regional folklore and wildlife. So, Amanda, my question for you before we jump into our interview, do any of your stories include regional folklore or wildlife?
Actually, the answer is yes. I am working on the first book in a brand new series that will expand the Collar Cases universe. At the time of this recording, the universe is just Collar Cases, Mysteries, and Powerpup, but this new series will be coming at some point in the future. And the first book is a mystery surrounding a possible Bigfoot sighting.
I am so excited. Obviously, you haven't really shown me much of this yet, but I have seen some of the brainstorming process and some of the ideas. And so I'm really, really excited.
I'm excited because this whole series, which I'm not going to say the name of it yet because it's still kind of a secret, but the whole series is my love letter to Scooby-Doo. I am a huge Scooby-Doo fan, and I have seen pretty much literally anything that is Scooby-Doo. And I am just super, super excited. So that's my answer. What's your answer?
Well, the Road Trip Rescue books do not include regional folklore or even really wildlife, though that's a missed opportunity, especially I feel like book one, they're out in the woods quite a bit, so there could have been some wildlife sightings. However, I am also working on a new series right now, and I haven't announced the title yet, but it'll be a Christian mystery series for kids, and it is set at a wilderness camp. And so I could envision there being some wildlife or even regional folklore. I'm not sure. There's nothing currently in the works for either of those things, but definitely at least some wildlife is going to have to enter the scene at some point.
And I just have to take a minute to party here because I want the listeners to know how excited, because I know the secret series that you're talking about. And I am delighted that you are drinking the Kool-Aid and you're joining like the mystery club. I am just so excited. We're going to be mystery buddies. I cannot wait. It is going to be such a treat for the readers.
I'm excited. Yeah, we're gonna be mystery buddies together. Yeah, you're paving the way for me. So thank you. All right, friends, let's jump into our interview with Amanda.
Our guest today is Amanda Cleary Eastep. Amanda is not related to Beverly Cleary, but she is an award-winning children's author, and the Tree Street Kids is her middle grade series for kids ages 8 to 12. Amanda, thank you for being here today.
Oh, I'm excited. Anything to do with ice cream is a good start.
Yeah, well, speaking of ice cream, we always like to start off these conversations by asking, Amanda, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm going to devastate my best friend who loves chocolate and say my favorite ice cream has coconut and pineapple in it.
Ooh. Wait, those were different oohs. Mine was excited.
Yeah, mine was like a
I know, my friend's like, fruit? You want fruit in your ice cream?
And I'm guessing your friend
favorite.
probably, it's more of like chocolate and things like that is what she wants in her ice cream.
Yes. She's like, why bother with ice cream if you're going to put fruit in it?
That's very close to my philosophy. I say if it's not chocolate, then why is it being called dessert?
But she still wants to be my friend, so that's good.
That is good. Amanda, can you tell us about your Tree Street series and the newest book, The Beastie of Brambly Bald?
Yes, the Tree Street Kids series is, I'm working on book number 6 right now. Book number 5 just came out in October. And yes, that's The Beastie of Brambly Bald. It's a story that is set in the 1990s, which probably feels like historical fiction to some readers. But that's when my kids grew up, and it is set in the suburbs, for the most part, suburbs of Chicago, although the Beastie of Brambly Bald is set in North Carolina. So best friend Jack and his best friends travel to North Carolina for the Thanksgiving break holiday to visit the grandparents that Jack hasn't seen in a while. So our best friends are Jack, and then his entourage include his little sister Midge, because you always have to have some comic relief, right? And then his best friend Ellison, who's our voracious reader. And then we have Roger, who is obsessed with history, and Ruthie, who is our resident photographer.
I have to say, I love how you've integrated such unique and distinctive personalities into these characters. They're so much fun to read. I haven't had a chance to read the newest book yet, but I've loved the books that I have had a chance to read from the Tree Street Kids series. And when I first saw the cover for the Beastie of Brambly Bald, the first thing that caught my attention was the giant footprint right there on the front. So I'm curious, what made you want to include some regional folklore in this book?
Part of it is just a bit of fascination with that that I've always had with folklore, and that's, you know, stories that are really passed down from generation to generation and are often specific to a place, like the mountains, or to a country, or to a certain kind of people group. So that I was just really interested in that. And my elder daughter, Mackenzie, she really loves what are called cryptid creatures. So kind of those folkloric creatures like the Loch Ness monster, or, you know, others like that. And so I just thought it was just kind of a fun mix. And I've lived in the mountains of North Carolina for about 3 years now. My husband and I moved here from the suburbs of Chicago. And so I just thought it just was really inspiring to me to kind of integrate and put that into the story.
What research went into creating this story that had both the folklore and the North Carolina wildlife?
Well, I kind of looked at folklore that was very particular to Appalachia. So where we are in Western North Carolina, that is considered part of the Appalachian Mountains, that kind of area. And so I was just kind of looking at local history and folklore. So I did some reading, and some, of course, you know, searching online. That's one of the easiest ways to do a little bit of research. Looking for books that were I actually found this book that was kind of fun. It was called Jack Tales, and I thought that was fun because if you think about, you know, Jack and the Beanstalk, and Jack and Jill went up the hill. So there's a lot of, if you really think about some of these older stories, there's a lot of characters named Jack in them. And so Jack tales are kind of like these tales that have been handed down. And so I found a book, and I thought that was really fun because my main character's name is Jack, and
That's perfect.
I love that. I love when you're researching something, and it all kind of comes like full circle, and things start to fit together. And I don't always know how that happens, but it does, and it's almost like a fun little treasure you've uncovered, you know, as you're searching.
Yeah. I recently was reading that there's a theory among people who enjoy reading folklore and those oral types of stories that are handed down. There's a theory that the Jack that is referenced in multiple fairy tales, like what you mentioned, is all the same character. And he's up to all sorts of different shenanigans, including like Jack Frost
Hmm.
and Jack and the Beanstalk. So like it follows his progression as he's getting older and getting into all sorts of stuff, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, one thing I found interesting was when I was looking into the Jack tales was that they were mostly told among adults. So
Mm.
they weren't necessarily children's stories. So they were sometimes humorous, or, you know, told for entertainment, or I suppose to teach lessons. But I found that really interesting too.
That's really neat. I never even realized how many, until like thinking about it now, how many stories there are with Jack as a character. So that's
Hmm.
kind of fun. Amanda, to shift gears a little bit, you had mentioned that this is your first book set in Western North Carolina. And you also mentioned to me earlier that it released the week of the devastating floods from Hurricane Helene. How did
Hmm.
that make the book's theme of God's big family come to life for you?
That felt very, when I was talking about uncovering little treasures, one of the things that entered my mind is that they're little gifts from God as we're writing. I think those are gifts God gives to writers as they're, I think there's stories that he maybe sparks in us, and then he helps us to kind of go down the path of finding how to develop those stories, and he leaves maybe these little breadcrumbs for us, or these little, treasures that we find along the way, and everything comes together. And so that's really what happened in real life. So I had decided probably a couple of years ago that I would set the book in North Carolina, in Western North Carolina, in the holler where we live, which is kind of like a little valley in between two steep hills. And so the book was supposed to release, which it did, on October 1st. And a lot of times writers do these big, book launches, and oh, my book is out. And but about 3 days before that, our area, and really all of Western North Carolina, as many people know, was hit by torrential downpours, which led to landslides and mudslides and just really historic flooding. So right now so that just changed everything. Releasing a book just didn't seem as important anymore when your home and your community is just devastated. But then I started to realize, and God started opening doors a couple weeks after. We had some cleanup to do. There's still debris and really the aftermath everywhere. There's just homes that have been washed away. I just keep thinking, like, our little post office is gone. It got swept away by the river, and just kind of, it's almost surreal. Like it's almost like this isn't real life. It feels like a story that you would read, like this kind of terrible, tragic story. But then out of that, there's beautiful stories, and there is this coming together of neighbors helping each other, people from other states just pouring into the area, even to our little town and to Western North Carolina, and befriending people and really acting like a part of our family, not worried about any differences they had, but just helping each other out, making meals for each other, cleaning out people's homes, providing shelter and food, whatever they could do. So that looked like, and still looks like, kind of like we've added people to our family because of the love they've had and the compassion they've had.
Wow, that's incredible. What a neat opportunity to witness that firsthand, especially
Right.
connected to your book. That's just a really special thing for an
Right.
author.
Yeah, and then I was praying for opportunities to how to to serve my neighbors, and so there's one way I didn't expect, and that was through somebody who was um, a woman who started something called the 21st Century Pack Horse Librarian. And the pack horses, yeah, they used to go. The history of that is the pack horses with women were kind of librarians. This was years ago during the Great Depression. They used to go up into the mountains of eastern Kentucky, and they would take books to people in very remote areas. So what we've been doing, and what Kirsten Crawford Turner has been doing, and I've been trying to volunteer with her and get book donations and those kind of things, is we've had different events in Western North Carolina, and we give books away. So we gather hundreds of books. So what was interesting with my book is, instead of, you're always thinking about, okay, well, how many books am I going to sell? It was, oh, how many books am I giving away this month? To these kids who, we've had people come from different, places, schools. People have lost, homeschoolers have lost curriculum and books, and just all kinds of personal belongings. Schools have been destroyed. They've lost their libraries, everything they had in their libraries. So the books that we give away they're not just Christian books, but she goes through a lot of the books and tries to curate what is given away. And so she's given away hundreds and hundreds of books to hundreds of kids. So
that is such a neat program.
That's amazing. Yeah, what an amazing way for the community to get together and to give back and to get kids reading, and books can give such hope even in the midst of such hardship. So I love that you're able to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So, speaking of kids who are reading books, we know as authors that there's all different types of readers who have different interests and different genre preferences and things that they want to get out of a book. What type of kid would enjoy reading your books?
Well, the types of kids that I have met who enjoy reading the books, it's boys and girls, which has been really fun. Even though Jack is a boy, he's the main character. I have a lot of girls who love to read the books. So it seems like kids who are a little more invested in reading. They read probably more often than they don't read.
Mm-hmm.
So the books can range from like 160 to 170 pages. So they're not like those shorter chapter books with lots of illustrations. They're a little bit longer book, more words and fewer illustrations. So they're really in that middle grade, what's considered middle grade category for 8 to 12-year-olds. So independent readers, kids who like realistic adventures. That's what I'm really hearing from the kids and their parents, is that they want something that's more real life.
Mm.
And so I try to push those boundaries a little bit, but there's not, it's not fantasy or magic realism. It's more of a real life setting. And so the kids really like that. They like the humor. It's kids who kind of want to read about kids who are like themselves. So I hear kids say, well, Jack had to move from his house just like I had to move, or, I started a new school and so did Jack. And, those kind of themes that are pretty common, but every child and every character handles them differently. And then kids really like the fun facts. So those are things that I research, and those are in all of the books.
That sounds so fun.
Amanda, I love that there are so many ways for kids to connect with your stories through the characters and the things that they go through. I think that's awesome. And on that note, we'd love for our listeners to be able to hear a little bit of the newest Tree Street Kids book, The Beastie of Brambly Bald. So we're going to be listening to a bit of chapter 3. Amanda, can you set up the story for us?
So in the first 2 chapters, before this chapter that the kids are going to hear, Jack and his little sister Midge both have pets. Now, Jack has a dog named Arrow, and Midge has a feisty little kitten named Fang. And Jack is not thrilled about this cat. And so pretty mischievous cat, and Jack's dog Arrow isn't very thrilled about the new addition to the family either. So they are headed over to their next door neighbor, and his name is Mr. Bruno, and he is packing to move away to Paradise, aka California. So that's kind of the setup for what's about to happen in chapter 3.
Awesome. Thanks for the setup. So now, listeners, we can go ahead and sit back and listen to chapter 3 from The Beastie of Brambly Bald.
In the first 2 chapters of The Beastie of Brambly Bald, we meet the pets of 10-year-old Jack Finch and his little sister Midge. Jack is a friendly and scruffy dog named Arrow, but Midge has a floofy terror of a kitten named Fang. Chapter 3, Thanksgiving Megaplan. At least there was one thing Fang couldn't get his claws into, and that was Thanksgiving break, only a couple weeks away. 5 days of no homework and lots of turkey. No chores, except setting and clearing the table, and extra whipped cream on, well, everything. Plus 4 whole days to deck out the bomb shelter, the official fort of the Tree Street Kids. Enter Jack Finch's Thanksgiving Bomb Shelter Blowout Megaplan. I'd discovered the hatch of the underground 1960s bomb shelter while mowing Mr. Bruno's overgrown grass last summer. Once my dad checked that it seemed safe, Mr. Bruno gave us the thumbs up to make the old shelter into our fort. Nearly every Saturday morning, I met with Ellison, Roger, Ruthie, and Midge to talk about important Tree Street Kids stuff. and today was Saturday. Picturing a late fall day, the blue sky, burning leaves kind, I kicked off the covers. I jumped out of bed and changed quicker than Superman on his way to rescue a fluffy gray kitten from a maple tree. I dashed downstairs through the kitchen smells of morning breath and coffee and out the back door to find snow. Any other day I'd be excited, but snow meant the bomb shelter would be a great place to store a box of popsicles, but not so great for 5 kids. We'd have to meet somewhere else. I trudged back inside. 15 minutes and 2 bowls of cornflakes later, Ellison knocked at the back door. "No meeting underground today unless you like hypothermia for breakfast," I told him when I opened the door. "That's what I figured," Ellison said, brushing snow off his flat top and stepping into the kitchen. Then, in his usual book-quotey voice, he added, "The best laid schemes of mice and men." We decided to call Ruthie and Roger and tell them to meet us at Mr. Bruno's to help him pack. Helping him also meant we'd be helping him move away. That was a goodbye I wasn't looking forward to. But it also meant I'd be helping get Mr. Bruno's house ready for my Grandma Jo and Grandpa Ernie to move in. It's weird how life can be hard and happy at the same time. Goodbyes and hellos, cold and snow, kittens and dogs. Midge thumped and bumped her way down the stairs and into the kitchen. Her morning hair, as usual, made her look like she'd slept in a tornado. Thang was strapped to her chest in the old baby sling Mom used to carry Midge in when she was small and bitey, too. After another bowl of cereal, the 3 of us bundled up and made our way next door. The green grass stuck through the wet, clumpy snow. The snow wasn't deep enough for a decent snowball, but it was the first snow of the season, and we did our best to pummel each other with slush. Arrow rolled around happily. His snow angels ended up looking more like lima beans. We crossed Mr. Bruno's driveway, the only thing separating my small blue house from his small white house. Once Grandpa Jo and Grandpa Ernie moved in, there'd be no more hour-long drives back to the farmhouse. Now we'd only be 8 steps away. Arrow trotted alongside me, nervously glancing back at Midge with her puffy baby tucked inside her puffy coat. Even if Arrow couldn't see Fang, he could smell trouble a mile away. Roger and Ruthie were already walking up the driveway from Cherry Avenue. Ruthie was sporting a new, custom-designed by her, eye patch, the most impressive one yet. The entire eye patch was a colorful turkey made of felt. Its tail, tiny red, yellow, and green feathers, fanned out along the top. "Thanksgiving is still 2 weeks away," said Ellison, "but that eye patch is a work of art nonetheless." "Thanks. I'm trying out new designs for something special. I have big news." Ruthie stopped when she spied the lump wriggling under Midge's coat. She leaned close, pulled the zipper down a few inches, and peeked inside with her other eye. "Oh my gosh, Fang is the cutest," Ruthie cooed. "Captain Beans can't wait to see her baby floofy woofy poof poof again." Despite Ruthie's occasional use of girl jargon, she is still the coolest girl the guys and I know. A small gray paw reached up and stretched, revealing those curved T-Rex claws. Floofiness can be deceiving. I could feel Arrow begin to tremble against my leg. "Quiet, Arrow," I said. When he stilled, I dug into my pocket, retrieved a dog biscuit, and offered it to him. He carefully took the treat from my hand and crunched contentedly. "So what's the big news?" I asked. Before Ruthie could answer, Roger's ever-present walkie-talkie crackled and squealed with an incoming message from his mom, a.k.a. Mothership. "Come in, Roger. 1028. We have a 312 in progress. 1022. Do you copy?" "My 1028 is Mr. Bruno's house, like every Saturday morning, Mom," he murmured into his walkie. "I won't be home for breakfast. Over and out." Roger was forever connected at the hip to his mom, who communicated with him in walkie-talkie 10 codes. For a 9-year-old boy, this is better than your mom yelling down Pine Street to, "Come home and put your socks and underwear away." I had picked up their lingo over the summer. Roger, I know your mom said to let her know where you are and to report home in person. But what's a 312? Bacon and eggs, he said, smiling proudly. It's one of the walkie-talkie codes I made up for my family. 3 for the 3 little pigs, meaning bacon, and 12 for a dozen eggs. 10-4, I said, and gave a thumbs up. Passing up bacon and eggs was a true sign of Roger's dedication to his friends. The 5 of us walked to Mr. Bruno's back door and squashed together on the concrete stoop. I knocked hard 5 times. Per Mr. Bruno's instructions, to knock once for each of you kids. 8 muffled thumps across the kitchen floor and a doorknob rattle later, the door swung open. There stood Mr. Bruno, wearing his usual flannel shirt and overalls. But in his right arm he balanced a stack of music records. Draped over his shoulders was silver Christmas garland, and at least 20 baseball caps were stacked on top of his bald head. "Jack, Ellison, Roger, and Ruthie to the rescue!" he bellowed. The stack of hats swayed precariously. "And Midge," Midge piped up, poking her head between Roger and Ruthie. "And Fang!" The lump with claws made a loud meow. Not to be outdone, Arrow barked. He darted between Mr. Bruno's legs and into the house. "Looks like you could use some help packing," I said. The first thing on our meeting agenda would be to help Mr. Bruno find a place for his hat collection, Christmas decorations, and polka music records. We spent an hour emptying kitchen cabinets and sorting old books and musty Popular Mechanics magazines. Mr. Bruno made piles 4 feet high and 1 pile of the hats he'd been wearing. Soon the living room filled with stacks of stuff, each with an empty cardboard box beside it. "I just can't bring myself to pack things up," he said, wiping his eyes on a red handkerchief he yanked from his pocket. "This is where Mary and I lived most of our lives." So instead of packing, he played polka music on his record player. Ruthie knew all the songs. That's when Mr. Bruno decided to teach Midge how to do a polka dance. They joined hands and started hopping and bobbing around the teetering towers of books and magazines, pots, pans, and paraphernalia. Fang, who had slept cozy and quiet in the baby sling, is not, apparently, a fan of the polka. He squirmed his way out of his cat hammock and scrambled down Midge's right leg, just as she was executing a perfect front kick, back kick, whee! Fang, for the 2nd time, or maybe the 100th that week, flew through the air. He landed on the record player. He skittered on the slippery black disc, slowing the cheerful accordion music to a growl. Arrow barked and spun in circles too, until Fang leaped off the record. The record player needles screeched across 25 polka grates. Midge positioned herself and held out the sling to try to catch the kitten in midair. And it almost worked, except Fang bounced off the outstretched sling and landed on the closest tower of books. Arrow charged after Fang and jumped up against the stack. It slanted sideways, and we all lunged forward to stop the landslide. But it was too late. Fang leapt from the top of that stack to the next, and the next, and the next, from books to magazines to pots and pans and paraphernalia. Arrow was right behind him, knocking against each stack, and the next, and the next, and the next, trying to catch the kitten. I chased Arrow and Midge chased Fang as polka band trumpets tooted and trombones honked, and Ellison, Roger, and Ruthie tried to save the toppling towers. Fang ran out of stacks and jumped into the arms of Midge, who hopped onto the couch to get away from Arrow. I scooped up my dog and turned to see every single stack fall. Some of the things in each stack landed smack into the empty box beside it. Mr. Bruno clapped wildly. "Hurrah! I'm almost packed and ready for paradise."
So, Amanda, what do you hope the kids take away from reading the Tree Street Kids books?
The first thing I always want kids to take away is just a sense of happiness, I guess. I love if kids find something to laugh about. I love if the humor resonates. And just to close the book and feel like they read a good story and they can move on. Of course, on a larger scale, I want them to feel that they've been invited into Jack's world, and that they've had fun and they have felt almost like a part of the friend group. I think that they belong in the little friend group, and that they feel that they've maybe learned something new, that maybe the story that they've just read kind of empowers them to maybe make some of the same kind of good decisions that Jack's had to come to make.
Awesome. And Amanda, you had offered to give away a signed copy to a listener. This will be US only shipping. So do you have a code word that if listeners send us at icecreamwithauthors@gmail.com, if readers email us a word, that they could enter to win a copy of this book?
Okay, I'm going to give a word so that I don't give away anything about the story. So the code word would be FANG.
Fang. Okay, so Fang is our code word. Listeners, if you email that word to icecreamwithauthors@gmail.com by within a week of when this episode airs, if you email us the word Fang within a week of when the episode airs, you'll be entered to win a copy of The Beastie of Bramley Bald. Thank you so much, Amanda. And did you also have a reader magnet, a gift that readers or their parents would get if they would sign up for your email newsletter?
If they sign up for the newsletter, which they can find at treestreetkids.com, there are 3 downloads. 2 are mazes. One's a maze for Jack versus the Tornado, and another is a maze for The Hunt for Fang. Those are books 1 and 2. And then the parents also get a free download for how to do kind of like incorporate fiction as a devotional time.
That sounds really neat.
That does sound neat. How can the parents or teachers and grandparents connect with you for finding books to purchase or even booking an author visit?
Well, treestreetkids.com is my official website. Most people contact me through Instagram, and that's book_leaves. I'm also on Facebook, Amanda Cleary Eastep author.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda, so much for joining us today and chatting about this new book in the Tree Street Kids series. I'm excited for listeners to be able to check it out.
Thanks so much, you guys. This was really fun, but now I have a taste for ice cream.
Thanks for joining us on Ice Cream with Authors. I hope you enjoyed our chat and found a new favorite book or author to love. Remember, the adventure doesn't end here. There are always more stories to discover.
If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. If you want to keep the conversation going, send an email to icecreamwithauthors@gmail.com with your comments or questions. We might respond in an episode to come. Until next time, keep reading and sharing the stories you love.